Chapter 17, Baseball on a Tuesday. Same day, Monday, January 14th, 1935. When my mom gets home that night, I don't mention Scout changed the day. I hate when she says, "I told you so." While I'm helping her clear the dishes after supper, Mrs. Capone knocks on her door. "Phone called for you, Helen," Mrs. Capone says. "Who was it?" I ask when my mom gets back. "The Beckers. They want to switch to Tuesdays now. Cotillion class has moved to Monday." My stomach drops. I think I must have heard wrong. "So you told them you couldn't, right?" "I did no such thing." "I've got baseball Tuesday. I thought Monday was baseball day." "It was, but then you said I had to change it, remember? You didn't tell me Scout changed it. You said he'd try. I haven't heard one word about it since then." "This can't be happening." "It can't be." "Can't you call them back?" She shakes her head. "But you said—" "I'm sorry. I said I would if I could, but now I can't." "Mom, you have to." "We need the money, Moose. If I get students, I have to take them." "Can't you play baseball here?" "Can't someone else watch Natalie and pay for a babysitter?" "Even if we did have the money, how would we find someone who could handle her?" "We all have to help out, Moose. That's the only way this is going to work." I go to my mom's room and slam the door. But then I come out again. I'm not giving up. "Mom, please." She shakes her head too. I go back to my room and I sit on my squeaky bed, stewing and reading, but mostly stewing. But being mad makes me hungry. I wait until I hear my mom go into the bathroom. Then I make a dash for the kitchen to raid the icebox. My mom finishes up sooner than I expect and catches me with 5 slices of bread, a hunk of bologna, and an entire package of cheese, plus 1 jar of mayo. I'm holding it with my chin. "I'm sorry about the misunderstanding, but B. Trixel said she's seen you play catch with Annie. She said you two have a lot of fun. Can't you play with her?" "That's different. It's not a game," I mutter. "What about Natalie? You haven't tried playing ball with her in a long time. Maybe she'll surprise you," she says. "And maybe chickens will sing and dance the polka," I mutter, pushing open the door of my room with my elbow. "What did you say?" I dump my load on the bed. "When's Dad coming home anyway?" "Midnight. He works all the time now," I say. "I don't like it any better than you do. Baseball's just 1 day a week, Mom. Couldn't we work something out for 1 day?" My mother doesn't answer. She goes into her room and closes the door. Chapter 18, Not on My Team. Tuesday, January 15th, 1935. Next morning, Scout catches up to me before I even get to school. "Hey, Moose, I've got 6 on 6 for sure, but I'm hoping for 7 and 7. He talks like he can't get the words out fast enough. "There's a kid in 8th grade. He's going to try. He's pretty good. I played with him before." "Where's your glove? If you didn't bring it, you could borrow mine," he says before I even have the answer. I look up at the blue sky and pray for a sudden storm or a big earthquake. "Did your old team have uniforms? Hey, wouldn't that be something? Uniforms and everything. But how do we pay for that?" I open my mouth to tell him and then close it again. All day long I try, but the words don't come out. By the time the last bell rings, I still haven't managed to say anything to him. Maybe I just won't show up. Tell Scout I came down with a sudden case of the chicken pox, but that's a rotten thing to do. I'm not a liar and I'm not a rat. Now Scout's outside of his French class talking to Piper. Since when does he talk to Piper? "Hey, Moose," Piper says. "Scout here has just been telling me you're quite the baseball player. He says you're a lot more coordinated than you look." "That's not what I said," Scout says. "That's what you meant, though." Piper's long hair hangs in her slanty eyes. Her sweater's buttoned at the top, and she has her gloves on. "What do you want?" I ask. "What do I want?" "Nothing. We were just chatting. Right, Scout?" Scout nods. He smiles at her, then looks at me, then back at Piper. He shrugs. "She was telling me about those convict baseballs." "Exactly," Piper smiles, pleased with herself. "By the way," she lowers her voice, "we're divvying up the earnings at the dock tomorrow, and you are getting exactly nothing. About time you gave Jimmy and Annie their cut. What have you been doing with the money anyway? Laundering it?" "Very funny," she says. "I gotta go," Scout says. "Bye, Piper. Meet you there, Moose." He starts running, which is how he gets everywhere. I don't think he knows how to walk. "Actually, I can't come today," I finally blurt out, my voice barely breaking a whisper. Scout stops. He turns around. "What?" he asks. "I can't exactly come today," I mutter. Scout stares at me. Piper does too. "Why not?" "I gotta look after my sister." "So, get someone else to watch her. That's what I did." I shake my head. "Piper," Scout says. "Will you watch Moose's little sister?" Piper snorts. "Not hardly." "Why not?" Piper looks at me. She seems to be thinking what to say. "Because," she answers, as if this explains it. Well, get somebody. I changed all this for you, you know. I know, I squeak. Scout makes a sound like he's in pain. What about next Tuesday? I can't then either. I stare at the field, where a line of girls are practicing archery in their white blouses and long plaid skirts. When can you play? Lunch. The word croaks out of me. I can't look at him in the eye. Lunch? Scout shakes his head. He slams his book on the ground, picks it up and slams it down again. What am I supposed to tell everyone? That I'm sorry. That you're sorry? His mouth hangs open. He waits for me to say something, but there's nothing to say. He picks up his book. Fine, but don't expect to play on my team ever again. I go home like I'm supposed to. But the second my mom leaves, I let Natalie get her buttons and I give her as much lemon cake as she wants. I'm not sorry about it either. Chapter 19, Daddy's Little Mess. Wednesday, January 16th, 1935. The next day at school, Scout treats me like a post made of cement. At lunch, I don't even bother going to the cafeteria. I head for the library and eat by myself. Scout's the only real friend I've made so far, and apparently I've lost him already. When I get home, I write a letter to Pete. I'm searching for an envelope when Teresa knocks on the door. Come on, she says. Piper's giving out the money. I'm not getting any, I tell her. Yeah, but we'll get candy. Candy? Natalie asks. Annie will buy us some at the store, and for sure she'll give us some. Now come on, you can bring your buttons, Nat, Teresa says. What am I going to do? Sit inside with Natalie all afternoon? When we get down to the dock, Jimmy, Annie, and Piper are already there. Nat gets right to work matching buttons to feathers to stones like this is her assignment. Natalie, Piper calls. Deep in the button mode, Natalie doesn't answer. Natalie, Piper tries again. What do you want with her? I ask, sticking my face in Piper's face. Simmer down, Buster. I'm just asking her to help me count. I don't think she's, I start to say. Numbers, Nat. We need you, Teresa interrupts. Natalie looks up. Piper hands Nat the money, rolled up in a handkerchief. $3.25. Split 4. Piper says. 3 ways. $1.06, 2 cents left over. Natalie rocks with pleasure. Extra 2 cents goes to me, Piper says, as Natalie counts out each share. Annie and Jimmy discuss what to do with the money. $1.06 buys a whole Italian dinner in North Beach, plus a double feature at the movies, or a month of swims at Lake Shaker's pool, or a month of rides on the streetcars, the dinkies, as Annie calls them. I'm just wondering how much they get for seal tickets when Miss Trixels appears out of nowhere. Everyone freezes. Piper's money is put away. Annie and Jimmy's piles are still out. Piper, Moose, Jimmy, and Annie, he barks. The warden wants to see you in his library. Me? I didn't do anything. I form the words with my lips, but keep the sounds inside. Teresa takes off her roller skates, but then begins to cry because she can't find her shoes. Jimmy starts hollering at Teresa to shut up. A group of moms and toddlers who have overheard Mrs. Trixel's command stare at us, their mouths hanging open. Annie clutches her homework against her chest. She looks even paler than usual. You don't have to come, I tell Teresa. He didn't call you. I have to come. Who's going to get you out of trouble? Teresa says, walking in her 2-sock feet. I'm not in trouble. I didn't do anything, I say. He called your name, Teresa says, her whole face scrunched up. Come on, Nat. She stoops down to Nat's level. Moose is in trouble. We gotta go. Natalie in the warden's office. My mom is going to love this. Leave your buttons, I tell Nat. She has most of them out now. If I wait for her to put them back, it will take hours. Yeah, Nat, we need you, Teresa says. Natalie, help. $1.06, 2 cents left. Nat nods to herself, following us. I shake my head in wonder. It's almost as if Nat is part of our group. We hike up the steps, switchback road in silence. The wind blows the eucalyptus trees. A buoy clangs, a boat horn toots. Natalie drags her toes. We climb the steps in Piper's house and file into the warden's library. The warden stares at each of us as we sit down. He says nothing for the longest time. The silence presses down on me. I didn't do anything. It wasn't me, I want to yell. When he finally speaks, his voice is very low. I am so disappointed, I can't even begin to tell you how disappointed I am. Outside, the gulls are arguing. They sound loud. Even through the window, I glance down at Natalie, who is sitting on the floor, running her hand over the spines of the books. The warden looks at each of us. He takes a pair of small gold spectacles out of his shirt pocket and flicks them open. Out of his pants pocket, he removes an envelope. All of his motions are slow and deliberate. He unfolds the letter and begins to read. Dear Warden Williams, my son, Dell Jr., goes to school with your daughter, Piper Williams. On Tuesday, Dell came home from school without his shirt. When I asked him where it was, he said his shirt was to be laundered by the notorious gangster inmate Al Capone. Of course, I thought his imagination had got the best of him, but when he explained the details of the operation, I began to see the idea was simply too preposterous to have been made up. It's bad enough to have the great city of San Francisco should suffer the indignity of a maximum security federal penitentiary in its midst without being subject to these sorts of sick and dangerous shenanigans. I am appalled by the extremely poor taste and unseemly behavior of your daughter and her friends. I certainly hope you take greater care in monitoring the activities of your prisoners than you do in watching your own flesh and blood. Out of courtesy to you and your long and distinguished association with my brother, Judge Thomas Thornboy, and the San Francisco Rotary Club, I am addressing this letter to you in confidence. But if I should hear anything of this nature again, my next letter will go directly to the San Francisco Chronicle and the mayor's office, respectively. Thank you for your prompt attention to this matter. Sincerely, Mrs. Del S. Peabody III. It's so silent in the room I can hear the air go in and out of people's noses. Warren William folds his glasses and returns them to his jacket pocket. Let's start with some explanations. Annie? Bomini? Annie's face is red. It makes her eyebrows look white. Her shoulders are slumped and her leg is twitching. Her homework is still clutched against her chest, like her arm is permanently stuck that way. I didn't sell the shirts. I put them through with our laundry. It was Piper's idea. The warden's eyebrows wag. He rolls his tongue over his teeth. The one thing I've never had patience for is a person who blames someone else to lessen her own culpability. I can't tell you how disappointed I am to see you behave this way, young lady. The warden stares Annie down. Piper speaks so highly of you. She's not usually like this, Daddy. Piper's lowers her voice and steps closer to her father. Like what, I ask? She said the truth. Jimmy stands up. Yep, he says, and sits back down again. The warden looks like someone has poked a pick in his side. His hand shakes. He steadies himself on the bookshelf, and then his eyes go cold and hard like something sealed in ice. Apparently I can't trust you children any more than I can trust these hardened criminals. Well, fine. I'll handle it like this. I would an uprising in the cell house. All of you will be punished without exception. Even me? Teresa's voice is quavering. Teresa didn't do anything, sir, Jimmy mumbles. Neither did Moose, Teresa says. $1.06. $1.06. 2 pennies left over, Natalie says. What? The warden looks for Jimmy, to Teresa, to Natalie. Shh, Nat, I say. 2 pennies left over. 2 pennies left over, Natalie says like someone is arguing with her math. What is she talking about? The warden roars. That's the amount left over, I say. Left over from what? From what they earned, Teresa says in a tiny voice. Earned? The warden barks. Don't tell me this is about money. Money changed hands in this shenanigan? No one says anything, but the quiet is clearly the answer. The warden looks at each of us. Let's have it. Right here. He pounds his desk. Every last cent. Annie reaches in her pocket and pulls out her coins. Then Jimmy. Piper doesn't move. Warden Williams looks at her. I didn't earn any money, sir, I say. He glances at the pile of coins, mostly nickels. Why do you think they're locked up? He cocks his head in the direction of the jailhouse. Why do you suppose, Mr. Flanagan? I swallowed hard, broke the laws. The warden ignores me. He waits. That's right. Money motivated most of them. Is that how you want to end up? No, sir, Annie and I say in unison. I wasn't born yesterday. You aren't the first kids to break the rules, but you will be the last children on the island to ever do anything like this again. There's nothing about this to be proud of. He waves the letter in the air. There may come a time in your life when you feel it's your moral authority to challenge a rule, but that's not what this is about. This is about greed and silliness and incredibly poor judgment. Do you have anything to say for yourself, Moose? Sir, I didn't do anything. That's what I've been trying to. No excuses, the warden roars so loud even Natalie looks up. How about you, Annie? No, sir. Jimmy? No, sir. Teresa? No, sir. If anything like this occurs again, all of your fathers will be dismissed without severance. Anybody know what severance is, Annie? Fired without pay, Annie whispers. That's right, Annie, the warden says. He watches her. Tries to pull her eyes to his eyes, but she will not look at him. She stares at her hands. Shame on you, he says in a velvet quiet tone. Shame on all of you. Annie, how do you think your mother's going to take this? And for crying out loud, Jimmy, you think your family hasn't have enough trouble? You really want your dad to be out of a job with a brand spanking new baby? Do you know how hard it is to feed 5 mouths in this world? Any of you? Jimmy bites his lip. I can see the tears well up in him. Moose, I expect more from you than this. He expects more from me? I didn't do anything. I've seen how nice you are with your sister, but then you get involved with something like this. He shakes his head. I catch you doing anything against the rules. I mean, you kids breathe wrong, and you'll be asked to leave. Yes, sir, we all say. The warden straightens his coat. It is straight already, but he does it anyway, as if the discussion rumpled him. I'll be speaking to all of your parents about this. This money will be returned to your classmates. I will make those arrangements myself. Now get out of my sight, every one of you. And you, young lady, he nods to Piper without looking at her, I'm not finished with you yet. As we file out of the office, I see Piper lean over and whisper to her father like she's his buddy, not his daughter. The little slime. She'll get out of this. She will. Chapter 20. Warning. Same day, Wednesday, January 16th, 1935. I feel bad for Jimmy and Annie. They're going to really get it. I won't, though. I'll explain what happens to my dad. He'll understand. He always does. We head to the parade grounds, but when we get to the turnoff, Natalie keeps plowing down towards the dock. Her buttons are there. How could I forget? Without any discussion, we follow her down. Teresa puts her skates on, but then just sits. Annie and I kick around an old can. Natalie picks up where she left off, matching buttons to feathers and stones. Jimmy begins building another machine. Every now and then he finds a rock he thinks Natalie might want and puts it in a pile for her. Apparently he knows the kind she likes because Natalie seems to give these stones a special place in her elaborate grid. I spin around and smack the can backward just for the heck of it. I turn back to see it sail 90 degrees in the wrong direction and land in the middle of Nat's button box, tipping it into her grid frame. Natalie freezes. I race over there. I'm sorry, Natalie. I'm so sorry. I kneel down, throw the can away, and try to put the buttons back as fast as I can. But it's too late. Nat sits motionless. No one can be still like Natalie. She's still like not even holding her blood moving inside of her. Nat, we can make them like they were. It will be fun. Come on. I pick up a smooth gray stone and try to think of where Nat would put it. But Natalie doesn't look. She curls up into a tight little ball in the cement, buttons, stones, and feathers all around. Annie, Jimmy, and I are kneeling with me now. Nat, I say gently, I'm sorry. We'll help you put them back. We'll make them just like before. A fly lands on her cheek, and she doesn't flinch. Annie shoos it away. Come on, Natalie, it's okay. Annie tries too. She makes her voice soothing and sweet, but Natalie doesn't move. Nat, we'll be careful. It won't happen again. Look, birds, 9 birds. I point to one lone gull pecking on the ground. But she doesn't look, and then Teresa skates over. Natalie, Teresa commands. It's okay. I'm here now. But Natalie has gone away somewhere deep inside. Only her body is left, rolled up tight and completely still. Teresa and I put her buttons back as we can, arguing over where they should go. Annie's shoes flies from Natalie. Jimmy keeps on building his machine, though every few minutes he adds another stone to Natalie's pile. We sit with her, Annie and Teresa, Jimmy, and me. Keep her company wherever she's gone. That is the way Mom finds us when she gets off the boat, her music bag over her shoulder. Moose! My mother looks at Natalie and then me. What happened? What's the matter? She runs towards us. I don't know, Mom. I tipped over her buttons. Why did you let her take them out? I don't know. She wanted them. How long has she been like this? Half an hour, maybe? My mom kneels down. She strokes Natalie's face gently and pushes the hair out of her eyes. Get them out of here. My mom spits the words out. Mom, I won't have them made a spectacle. It's really not like that. They like her, I say. Now, Moose. Annie, could you? My mouth hangs open, waiting for the rest of the sentence to come out. Annie looks at my mom and Natalie. I see in Annie's small blue eyes that she understands. Teresa, Jimmy, get a move on. We can't stay here, Annie commands. Teresa stamps her skate so hard she bends the wheel. That stinks. Why do we have to leave? She says. Jimmy and Annie pull her up the hill. I find my dad at the electrical shop. He carries Nat home and puts her in bed. At first, she has her eyes open in that weird way, but then pretty soon she closes them. When my mom comes out of Nat's room, her face is as white as flour. Honey, you should lie down, my father says. My mother nods and heads for her room. I don't know how much longer she can take this, my father says. I don't know if he means Natalie or my mother. When Miss Trixel knocks on my door, my mom and Natalie are sound asleep. The set of Mr. Trixel's jaw and his formal military nod makes me wish that, more than anything, that I'd talked to my father about what happened with the warden before he heard it from someone else. Too late. He and Mr. Trixel are out the door. When my dad comes back, he chomps his toothpicks hard and angry. Moose, he motions with his head like I should follow. We go down to the dock, around the southern tip of the island, past the 16-foot sign that says, Warning, Persons procuring or concealing escape of prison or of prisoners are subject to prosecution and imprisonment. Jagged lines of orange and pink carve up the sky. My father throws a stone in the orange-tinted water. "Please tell me you didn't know anything about this," he says. I open my mouth to explain how it wasn't me, then his words register in my brain. I close my mouth. He closes his eyes and shakes his head. "I didn't sell the laundry," I say. "I didn't get any money." "But you knew about it." "Yeah, but I'm not a... You wouldn't want me to be a snitch, do you?" "I don't want you to be a snitch. This isn't some schoolyard game. I almost lost my job here, Moose. Do you know what that means for us?" I look out at the darkening sky. "If you lost your job, we could go home." "Is that what you think? That we can waltz back home?" he snorts. "We could live in our old house and you could work at Sam Jensen Electric like you have my whole life." Sam got a new guy working for him, and some other family lives at 2828B Montana Avenue now. That isn't our life anymore. It isn't our home. We live here, and if I lose my job, who knows where we'll live? Check out the lines of men looking for work someday, Moose. Dad, I will not hear what my own son is doing from Darby Trixel. Do you understand me? You know what I said to him? I said, "Oh no, Moose would never be involved with something like that." He would tell me. Well, I was going to, but then it was such a bad day today with Natalie. "I don't mean after the fact, Moose." He stares at me. I stare at the dark ground. I've never seen my father like this. "I want your bat, your ball, and both your gloves. I'm going to keep them for a while. I haven't decided how long yet. And if anything like this happens again, that will be it for you and baseball." "Dad, come on." The words crawl out of my throat. "I won't have this. You're treating me like I did everything wrong. It's not fair. If you didn't know anything about this, it wouldn't be fair. But you knew all about it, and you didn't do anything to stop it. At home, this never would have happened. At home, I wasn't responsible for everyone else in the world. That's not what I'm saying, and you know it. So I knew that what Piper was doing was wrong, okay? But that doesn't mean anything. Life isn't so cut and dried as you'd like to make it, Moose. You have to use your head. I used my head. I have to be able to depend on you. Can I count on you or not?" my dad says. I can't even nod. I can't move my head. "Moose?" "Yeah," I say. "All right then," he says.